Hi, boys and girls. This is Ms. Kathy. I'm so happy you've joined me today for another story just for you. Chapter 10. Surprise! The Sheriff's Department? What do they want? Willie asked. As he spoke, the front door opened. Dad, how come you're home so early? Dad winked at Mom and set his briefcase down. Can't a man come to his own home in the middle of the day? He asked, smiling. Mom just looked at Dad, her eyebrows raised. The doorbell rang. Dad opened the door and made a funny little bow as the rest of the shoebox kids bounded into the living room, followed by Mrs. Shoe. Willie looked quickly at Chris and Sammy. They were whispering to each other. Then they grinned at Willie. Welcome home, everyone shouted. Then they all talked at once, each one trying to be heard above the others. Coco ran in circles, yapping. Then a voice boomed above them all. Can we join the party? For one instant, everyone was silent, staring at the two big men in sheriff's uniforms. A smaller man dressed in jeans was behind them. Then Willie let out a squeal. Mr. Mason! Dave! Wow! Then he turned to his shoebox friends and said proudly, These are the men who rescued Grandpa and me. And Mr. Mason, Chris and Sammy are the ones who found me, he said, pointing them out. I didn't recognize you at first, Mr. Mason, Willie added. Not without your red baseball cap. Hey, buddy, he replied, I can't wear my red cap with my dress uniform, and this visit is official business. As he spoke, he glanced around at all the shoebox kids now sitting quietly, looking up expectantly. Mr. Taylor thought that all of you might like to be here for this. Oh, and this man, he added, nodding toward the man in jeans who was holding a camera, is a reporter from the Mill Valley newspaper. But why? Willie's mom asked. I'm still confused. You'll see, his dad said quietly with a smile. Then Mr. Mason and Dave stood side by side, straight and tall, in front of Willie. They looked very important. The reporter adjusted his camera. Mr. Mason held up a crisp, official-looking piece of white paper. Willie Taylor, he said in his big, deep voice, because of your actions that resulted in you and your grandfather being found and rescued, the Mill County Sheriff's Department awards you this certificate of bravery. He handed the certificate to Willie as the camera flashed and the kids cheered. Willie beamed with pleasure. He felt a warm glow inside. He noticed his mom wiping a tear off her cheek. After the men left, the kids sat quietly talking for a while. Then Mrs. Shoe spoke up. Willie, was it scary down there in the canyon? Yeah, Willie shuddered, remembering. I knew angels were there, but it was scary, especially the first night. You know, he continued, I fussed because I couldn't walk and go for help. I prayed, and I wanted God to make a miracle. He paused before speaking again. I think I understand things better now. I need to work on learning everything I can, and Jesus will tell me how to use what I learn. Chris laughed and said, When we were practicing the code, I never thought we'd use it to get you rescued. That's it, Willie replied. See, we can trust Jesus to take care of us and to show us how to use what we know to help others and ourselves, he added with a grin. If you've learned that, Willie, Mrs. Shoe said, you've learned something many adults don't know yet. Dad was hanging up the phone as Mrs. Shoe finished speaking. Good news, Willie. I can bring Grandpa home in time for supper tonight. Again the kids cheered. Dad picked up his briefcase and held up his hand for silence. Willie Taylor, he said in a deep voice. The kids laughed at his imitation of Mr. Mason. Willie Taylor, he repeated, sounding more like himself. Because of your bravery and quick thinking, your mother and I would like to present you with something to make the Morse code more fun for you to practice. He reached into his briefcase and took out a small package. He handed it to Willie. We know you were hoping for the Morse code computer program next Christmas, but we decided you could use it now. Oh, cool, Willie exclaimed. He tore open the wrapping and held up the box. I don't know what Jesus will use me for next, but I'll be ready.
The story you have heard today is a chapter of The Shoebox Kids, Book 8, The Rockslide Rescue, written by Sandy Zaug, edited and created by Jerry D. Thomas, and used with permission from the Pacific Press Publishing Association. If you're interested in any other books published by the Seventh-day Adventist Church, please visit AdventistBookCenter.com or call 1-800-765-6955.
This podcast is a production of the Carolina Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.